Today we're going to talk about proxies and its advantages and how to set up a proxy server. We'll first talk about proxy server, the basic definition, its uses, web proxy and how it works through various examples and analogies. We'll have a look at their advantages. Then we'll list a few popular proxy caches, and then we'll show you how to set up Squid on your own laptop. Proxy server. A proxy is a host which relays web access requests from clients. It is like a middleman between the user, that is you, and the web server, which is the internet. For example, let's take the case of a postman. In this case, the postman is the proxy server. You can either choose to deliver the mail to your friend via the postman or drive your own self to your friend's house. Ironically, sending the postman might save you from any accident or mishap, and perhaps it will take a lesser amount of time as you wouldn't be stopped by the police midway. Uses. It is used when clients do not access the web directly, and it is also used for security purposes, logging, accounting, performance, etc. So, a good example is web proxies. When you're configured to use a proxy, your web browser contacts the proxy server for each web access instead of going directly to the target server on the internet. The proxy server then turns around and makes the real request of the web server. The proxy server gets the response and then passes it back to you. Let's take this example. In this case, consider talking to somebody who speaks a foreign language through a translator. You talk to the translator, who receives your statements, then regenerates something else completely to the other end. So the translator here is the proxy server. So here you can see that from the user sends asks for a page, requests for a page, and this goes in an unencrypted manner, and then the proxy server encrypts it and sends it to the web server, which returns your request. Now let's have a look at how a web proxy works through an analogy. Here we can see we have three clients that are connected to the internet through the local area network. When a user requests a web page, the packet it sends has the source IP address as its own and the web page's IP address as the destination address. These packets are sent to the switch in their LAN, which routes it to the proxy server. The proxy server then retransmits the packets to the destination, but this time the source address on the packets is the IP address of the proxy server. When these packets reach the web server, the source and destination address are exchanged. Now the packets go back to the proxy server. The destination IP address is changed to the address of the user who initially requested the page and source as the IP address. Then the switch routes the packets to the client. Now let us have a look at the advantages of proxy. The first advantage is caching. A proxy server would store a cached copy of a particular website you visit for the first time. So, a proxy doesn't forward every request sent through it. Instead, it first examines if it already has the requested web page in its cache. If so, then it returns that page without sending another request to the destination server. Now, just have a better look at caching through an example. Consider a customer at a bookshop. Here, the user or the client acts as the customer, the proxy acts as the shopkeeper of the bookshop, and the server is the publishing house. The customer asks for a newly published book that the bookshop doesn't have in stock. So, the shopkeeper gives him a waiting time of 3 days, during which he gets a bundle of books from the publishing house and then gives it to the customer. So, the next time someone asks for the same book, the shopkeeper takes one out of this stack of books and gives it to the customer right away, thus saving on a lot of time and energy, which in the case of a proxy server would mean reduced bandwidth and lesser access time. So the basic advantages of caching are that it speeds up data transmission, it reduces the load on the server, and it uses lesser amount of bandwidth. Next, there are two types of caches, browser caches and proxy caches. Browser caches are those in which caching is done by your web browser, and proxy caches are those in which caching is done by proxy. Another advantage is bypassing. For example, a lot of companies and places, sometimes a lot of sites are blocked. So using the proxy server, you can access any site without any restriction. Another advantage is anonymity. So your IP address or your location can be tracked down from while you're using the internet. So a proxy server ensures anonymity and it doesn't disclose your location and any other private details to others. Another advantage is security. So the proxy server acts as a security guard to protect you from the unexpected virus attacks while you're browsing. So basically, proxy servers, they filter out malicious content in websites easily to prevent browse-by malware infections. Next, let's have a look at popular proxy caches. First, we have the Apache proxy, then the MS proxy server, Win proxy, and Squid. So Squid will be showing you how to set up a proxy using Squid, and of course many others. So now let's have a look at Squid. Squid is a high-performance proxy caching server for web clients. It keeps data cached in the RAM, and unlike traditional caching softwares, Squid handles all requests in a single non-blocking process. Squid setup. So, we install Squid first. There are a lot of the files used. So the configuration file of Squid is /etc/squid/squid.conf, and the log file is /var/log/squid. Also, there are a lot of configuration options, like you can determine the disk cache size and location, the authentication, the hosts allowed, and also you can determine any other access restrictions like sites, content, the size, the time of access using ACL.
Open the Linux terminal. Squid is installed using the apt-get command. Type sudo apt-get install squid. Mention Y, that is yes, for the request. Linux setup will install on its own. Now we will configure the config file of Squid. The file opens, we scroll down to the end of the file. At the end, we add the following permissions, that is ACL proxy src 192.168.0.0/16. Here, ACL is the command, proxy is the name of our proxy server, and the given address is the source address, where 16 denotes that the first 16 bits are fixed and the rest can be changed. Then we write http:/access allow proxy to allow access to the client, and we save the configuration file. We then go back to terminal and restart the Squid server using the command sudo service squid3 reload so that the changes made in the config file are reflected. We have set up the proxy server. Let's check it on another system. The following setting changes need to be done on Linux operating system. We go to the Firefox browser, go to edit menu, then preferences, we click advanced option, go to network bar and check settings. Take the manual proxy server configuration option. In the HTTP proxy, we type the IP address of the proxy server, which we get using the ifconfig command of Linux terminal. Squid as a default works on port number 3128, add it in the port column, click OK. On the Windows operating system, go to the Internet Explorer browser, go to Settings and Internet Options, go to the Connections bar, and in the LAN settings option, check the proxy setting and enter the IP address of the host and the port number. Thank you. click OK. We randomly open a website named soundbible.com after being connected to the proxy server. Now we check the IP address of the client using ipconfig on the command line in Windows. The IP address is found to be 192.168.48.233. Now we go back to the host system on the Linux terminal. We access the log file of the proxy server using following command. In the access log file, we see that the IP address 192.168.48.233 has accessed the following websites including soundbible.com. We will see how to connect to a proxy on the same system. This is called a local host. These are generally used to test the proxy. We need to configure the settings in the browser similarly as before. Put the proxy address as 127.0.0.1, which corresponds to your own IP address, keeping the port number as 3128, which is the default squid port. We will open a random site named ibn7.com and check if it is going through the proxy. Now go to the terminal and type the following command to check your log file. The log file shows that the site ibn7.com was accessed by 127.0.0.1, that is my own system.